Salutation, this is Difu for the week 1 of the Diamond Double Strap League, where I will be facing off against Swamp, who is a rain team, which is represented right here, as you can see me lovely pointing out. And for myself, it was a team I had to consider for a while, but after a bit, I decided to do a team of Como, Mouso, Chiyu, Illumies, Staraptor, Toxtricity. Team I feel like they had the best matchup overall against this team. We're kind of rushing this. This is day 1 that we are allowed to do tournaments, and we're already doing it. So I threw something as fast as I could, kind of just looked at the team and like, yeah, that looks pretty good here. And I gotta say, I like it. It's gonna be fun at least. Might not be the best strats, but it's gonna be a fun strat. So, let's get right into it.
Alright, so this is going to be post-commentary here. We're going to cut around a little bit here. I decided to do a Como Mousehold lead with Staraptor and Illumies in the background to help keep Intimidate. Any case it goes Meowscarada or Fungus, they could just one-shot it with my Staraptor. He leaves Basilican and Politoed here, which I'm like, okay, so just trying to get the rain advantage, weather advantage, understandable. So I decided to do here is protect my Mousehold, since I don't think he'll do any water moves into my Como. Maybe the Mousehold, and which he does here, which is Liquidation. And I decided to counter this by using Calangerous Scales. I thought maybe setting up, I'm like, let's just do some damage, get some check. And lo and behold, he has eject button. And also based on that damage on the Basilican, that is a V, which is another only reason I could also see him trying to run something like Liquidation here. So he sends out Overquill, which is not Swift Swim, but Intimidate instead. This is probably later in the game, but as you see here, he decides to Terra his Basilican Water type, one of his Terra captains. So I'm like, okay, let's see here. So what I decided to do is protect my Como, which is a mistake in this situation here. I should have went for damage or something here, and he just kills my Mousehold for free, essentially. I was trying to go Super Fang into his Overquill to cut it in half, but lo and behold, that did not work out. He goes for Poison Jab here, so it's a physical set, I can tell. So I decided to bring in my one of my rain checks, Illumies. And he immediately switches out his Basilican here. Makes me wonder what he's going to do. And it's Fungus. Not a Moongus, but Fungus. So I set up Sunny Day because I was afraid of a water move. One-shotting my Illumies. And I tried to set up here. As you can see, it's not the worst choice in this situation here. I am now at neutral defense, and no longer -1. And it goes for Poison Jab, which does exactly just right above halfway part. So, fearing getting KO'd by Poison Jab, I decide to Terra Steel. By Terra Stealing here, I am making myself more vulnerable to water moves. This is the only downside. And I set up Tailwind for future in case he decides to switch in Politoed, so I could be faster than his Basilican, so it'd be Force Aqua Jet. It does quite a bit of damage to Calangerous Scales, but not enough, and we find out that Overquill is Citrus Berry here. And by the fact that there was no Focus Ash and that Fungus lived a hit, I can assume it's a Violite. But he goes for Haze, countering any setup on my Como is available. And spores my Illumies. So he decides to switch out his Fungus and bring back in his Basilican since I'm no longer boosted in damage. Illumies first trying to sleep, understandable. And I just go for a Clanging Scales here. It would have killed Fungus, I believe, but it does not in this situation. He goes for Poison Jab into Lumis, which makes me think that it's his only form of offensive move. I switch out to my Pokemon so I can get an Intimidate off since he has 2 physical attackers out on the field. And also so I can reset the defense on my Como for later. He switches out his Overqwil and brings in his Politoed to get back the weather control. I still have Tailwind up, but it's not going to be much help here. I also switched, predicting him to go for an Aqua Jet into my Como with -1 defense, which would have easily KO'd it, since it was no longer Dragon type. But Staraptor was able to weaken his damage, so he switches out and brings into his Overqwil. What I regret here is not trying to go for Brave Bird into Politoed like I was wanting to, but I was afraid of the Basque Legion more. Illuminese takes his second turn of sleep. No, yeah, but second turn of mandatory sleep. Well, not mandatory, you get what I mean. Caleb here takes some damage, and find out Politoed has Ice Beam, so even if I don't Terra my Como, he can threaten it with an Ice Beam, which is good knowledge to know. And my Tailwind does run out this turn, so I decided to bring in my Como now, since, well, I kind of ran out of options at this point. But because I took all 3 mandatory sleep turns on my Illuminese, he's able to kill it with a priority Aqua Jet, which I was hoping I could get a sunny day off here. But alas, I am unable to do so. So here I'm just kind of going for a Klinger Scales, kind of his last ditch, just kind of get the damage feel again. See that Politoed can probably get 2 shots by a +1, and I decide to forfeit round 1, not letting my Como get KO'd. So yeah, that's my round 1. A few things I decide to adjust from this game is I am no longer bringing Staraptor. Staraptor is choice locked, it's not going to do too much damage, especially with this Intimidate, possibly 2 Intimidate, so I decided to bring Toxtricity instead. I should have brought a game 1, but I was like, you know, I was afraid of his like Meowscarada and stuff. So he leads Salamence and Fungus, which I could not ask for a better lead here. So right away, I decide to Super Feint Salamence, get that thing weakened as it goes for Dragon Dance, which I'm like, cool, you want to set up? Hey, I want to set up. But also seeing the fact that he did not Rage Powder gives me an impression that he went for something either like Pollen Puff expecting this, or he decided to go for Spore, but nah, this is not a duo that you Spore into. Which it's never shown in the game, but I am overcooked on my Como this game for Amoonguss, but it never comes in place. But I also have safety goggles on Maushold. What surprised me here though is leftovers on Salamence. What doesn't surprise me here is he decides to Terra it. What does again surprise me here is Terra flying. Because I predicted him to Terra, correct? But to Terra Steel so he could survive a Klinger Scales. So I go for the redirection here. He goes for Terra Blast, not Dual Wing Beat, which I believe Salamence gets, but can't remember. And he's also Moxie, which it's obvious he did not get a boost at the beginning. My Aura Sphere does a decent chunk, but sadly, instead of going for Spore, he decided to go for Pollen Puff here. And then again, more leftovers recovery, so I decided to bring in my Illuminese. Sorry for skipping the animation. And he goes for Protect, which I did call because I go for Encore into his Fungus here. I go for Encore, that way he keeps going for Pollen Puff, and because I thought going for like Fake Tears into it, but that never happened. Because if I went to Fake Tears, that would give him a free switch, which is something I did not want to do. So he decides to switch out of Salamence, wanting to preserve it for later, into Basculegion. Really wish I went for Fake Tears in that slot now. And he switches his Boongus into Politoed. So he still decided to bring his Weather. I go for Encore into Salamence slot, nothing happens, obviously. And go for Clinging Scales, which does about 40% to Basculegion and about 65-ish% to Politoed. Let me know that yes, he does get 2-shot by +1 and whatnot. So, in comes Salamence, getting more and more leftover recoveries, probably going to get full at this rate. And I decide to protect my Basculegion here. I mean, not my Basculegion. My Como here, and go for Tailwind. So I have the speed advantage for the rest of this match here. He reveals Wave Crash. So he has 3 water moves. And goes for Terra Blast. Which, as you can see here, does kill Lumimise. Pretty obvious it would. And he gets another Moxie boost, but at this point, I'm not too worried because I don't have Staraptor in the back. I have Toxtricity. Electrifying power. Now here, it's kind of a weird switch I feel like, but understandable. He switches into his Fungus here, which I decide to Terra Water my Toxtricity, because Basculegion hurts a lot. And, well, honestly, I'm not sure on speed tiers at this point. I think I should be faster than Basculegion with my Toxtricity underneath Tailwind, but I'm not 100% sure, so I turn to Water. And also, in case he just tries to go for chip damage with Aqua Jet. As you see here, Clinging Scales finishes off the Fungus, which does have Regenerator. As I tried to also go for an Overdrive. Overdrive, a single target to Salamence would for sure KO it at this range. Or any range really, with Terra Flying. He gets a last little bit of healing back. In comes Basculegion. And he goes for Aqua Jet into my Como, which does just about half of my remaining HP. Clinging Scales surprised me not KOing Salamence, so I know it's at least somewhat bulky. I mean, it's got leftover, so it's kind of obvious it should be. Which, doing this, all of his hard hitters are gone. All he's got left is a Politoed against a +2 special attacks Toxtricity. And, I mean, Como with a Life Orb Toxtricity sitting right next to it. In comes the Politoed. And at this point, I just, take a breather, realize what's going on. Battle is cancelled. Score is 1-1. Close game. We got this. We got this. So I decide to lead the same thing as I did last time. Game 2. I did consider bringing Toxtricity in the lead, and when I saw this lead, I regretted not doing it instantly. I really want to bring Toxtricity in the front with Mousehold. But I was like, you know what? My way I'm going to switch it up is by doing the same thing every time, but as you see, that's not a good idea. What does surprise me though is Last Respects. I figured he might have a ghost move like Poltergeist instead of Last Respects, but I guess since it's not singles OU, we're allowed to use that. Go for Clinging Scales again, just get that chip and force that frog to switch out because I don't know what it's doing. In comes a new threat, Meowscarada. And here he goes for Terra Water in his Basculegion. And I decided I'm going to double protect. Scout out this speed tier of this Meowscarada, see if it's faster or slower than his Basculegion. See what it goes for. Is it a Protean? Is it Overgrow? And here comes the play rough. Ugh. And Protean. But it went before the basculation, so I can confirm that it is choice scarfed. It also goes for liquidation in case I Terra Steel. Smart, smart. Now I decide to, okay, follow me. I can live a play rough here, right? Easy. And I'll take the liquidation away as well. He probably doubled up into my Como slot if I had to guess, and gets a necessary crit. And not wanting to lower my defenses anymore, I decide to click Aura Sphere, which does a good chunk. Good chunk indeed. In comes Illumise. I can now get some weather control back into this. And here is where I made what I consider to be the second biggest mistake of this game 3. Terra Steel, not a mistake. Sunny Day, not a mistake. As you see, if I did not Terra Steel, that thing would have KO'd me so bad. I didn't expect it to do that much damage, to be honest. But I also forgot I'm faster than the Basculation here. I could have easily just went for another Aura Sphere into it, got it down to red, possibly even KO'd it if I got low roll last time, high roll this time. But instead I went for Clinger's Souls for some weird reason. And here's my second mistake. I did not click Encore into Basculation here. I was afraid of the Politoad coming in, and then he would read my Protect or Switch out and decide to kill my Illumise. But no, he doesn't do that, so I went for Sunny Day, which was useless. And Aqua Jet here, if I just got him stuck into that last move, Liquidation, things would have been so much better. Instead, I had to switch out into my Toxtricity here. I go for Tailwind here, which I believe I did just probably a turn too early, and should have went for like Fake Tears into his Basculation slot, because my Illumise has 0 attacks. So I go for Take Tears into Overquill in case it switches into Politoad, because I figured Politoad might be able to live in Overdrive. And here's the Overdrive, which does kill the Basculation and gets nice crit on Overquill. Doesn't get the knockout, so it's able to eat its Citrus Berry. He does lose all of his priority moves here, though, which is a big thing to know. And he just keeps going for the Poison Jab. It makes me really believe he doesn't have another offensive move here. In comes a Meowscarada. Here was the final mistake I made of the game. I did not click Protect on my Toxtricity. By not clicking Protect on Toxtricity, it's a double knockout. And all I got left, it's like a 5 HP Pokemon left in the back. Sunlight's gone. All I got is a Como and a Dream. He is Dark-type Meowscarada, so my only chance is his Overquill only has poison moves. And I go for Aura Sphere into his Meowscarada, KOing it. But he switches it out, preserving it, and once my Tailwind's gone, he can KO me whenever he desires. So, yeah. I just go for Glowing Scales, and Politoad lives, does Weather Ball, lose week 1 to Swamp. 2 wins for him, 1 loss for me. Good game, Swamp. You prepped really well.